November 23rd, 2011. To my right, my co-host and political analyst, Stephen Thompson. Far right, Saquan Jones, another one of on the spot's co-host here.
Thanks for having me again, Norm.
You're welcome. First subject, Occupy Wall Street.
Hey, we're on the West Coast. All the energy's on the West Coast.
Steve, why you want to keep this thing going?
Well, you know what?
I mean,
I like a lot of energy.
All right, well, let's hear about the West Coast then.
You're not gonna pepper spray me.
No,
all right. Let's tell you what happened. What essentially the protest to support Occupy Wall Street. And on the UC campus of the Davis University, they decided that they were going to have a peaceful rally. They sat down in the middle of the quad, when you go to college, and they decided they're going to say, you know what, we're going to support Occupy Wall Street. There was a problem. The police asked them to move, and they were peaceful.
I saw it.
And the video is very clear.
Speaks for itself.
Cops pepper sprayed them. I mean, it was bad. It looked like something where you went in the back of your
60s.
garden.
That was the 60s.
Yeah, and
wait, first, why are you making reference to the 60s? That because we're African American, we have
no, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Connection.
There was no white kids.
Remember, you have Kent State. That was that was a Vietnam War.
There was a bunch of peaceful kids sitting on the ground.
Right.
And you have to see it. Police came by, one officer was given orders to do it. He came by with a big canister of pepper spray, and he literally was.
I'm not for any police brutality. Obviously, us being in New York, we have this stop and frisk mentality here where we can't even feel safe.
Right.
So I'm not giving law enforcement a pass on this situation. Right. What I am trying to convey is the message behind the Occupy Wall Street, which I want the message to. I think that these acts of violence are transcending the message.
Okay,
and they're creating a different set of individuals who are now looking to do different than what the objective was to set out to do.
The movement caused the reaction.
Right.
And then it magnifies the movement. Because when you stand here, when the kids is sitting on the ground, arms locked, and I'm a law enforcement officer, so I know under no circumstances, if you're peacefully sitting there, at the most you can really do is we can lift them up and take them where we want them to go if they refuse to move.
Right.
But can we literally just pepper spray them for nothing? There's no violence being here.
I hear you, Steve. I agree with you. You're preaching to the choir in this situation, but I think that my main problem with it and how when I just said to Steve is how, now that it's been basically cleared out from New York, and now they're walking to Washington, and
they've been walking.
And
they just arrived today.
I think that the message is now lost.
Okay.
Now we don't have the original objective. Stop CEO pay.
Right.
Give jobs back to individuals who actually deserve. How do we fight against the 99% versus the 1%?
Certain regulations.
Exactly. Right. So now we have, the image of the young man who was beaten, he was bloodied, and now his image is now this catapult for a whole new subgroup.
How resilient?
Now.
The question then becomes that you're trying to say is how resilient will the movement be now?
Not how resilient. How does it go? Gandhi had his movement, not his movement, but his philosophy,
right.
and it was nonviolent. Martin Luther King had it, and they were nonviolent.
Right.
Even though acts of violence were committed,
of course,
against the movement. Now, how is Occupy Wall Street going to transcend this sort of these incidents?
Well, that's a good question. A lot of people now say what has happened is the people in charge, administrators, law enforcement, are now having a problem because they haven't sat down and said, we need to address this in a more, let's say, logical way. Because now they have to sit back. We have a former police commissioner from New York, Bratton, who's the former LA commissioner. He's going to have to do a report. Well, but the issue, to your point, is if you have peaceful protests, then the people around them have to respond that way. They haven't been doing
this.
This
is and Stephen, I mean, maybe you guys can answer this and help me out.
Right.
Because now we're in a situation now where the civil rights movement, there was a focus.
Right. Had a focus.
African Americans need equal rights.
Right.
You have, Gandhi's movement. We need equal rights.
Right.
Where is because there was no clear objective in the beginning,
right.
What are you pepper spraying besides people now? Do you understand what I'm saying?
What the issue?
It wasn't pepper spraying Martin Luther King. It was pepper spraying civil rights.
Right.
It wasn't pepper spraying, or killing tons of Indians during the time that they were, rebelling or they were protesting.
Trying to get
you were killing the movement.
Right.
When the IRA was fighting against British, imperialism,
right.
You were not killing Irish. You were killing. You weren't killing, Irishmen. You were killing imperialism. You were fighting
so now, what are you saying?
What is it now that now it's time for them to define their message?
But you see,
it's not being done.
But here's the difference, and I'm gonna say why it's being done. We have 1 year to an election, and everything is starting to somewhat get fine-tuned.
Right.
Somewhere along the line in their General Assembly meetings that they're having, they're gonna have to come up and say, okay, we're going to go to the left, to the right. The political strategy will take its place. It will start shaping itself.
But they haven't done that. No,
but there's too much.
Saquan is that
the Tea Party automatically aligned themselves.
But the Tea Party had Dick Armey and billionaires to lead the Koch brothers.
Occupy Wall Street is they're not missing meals because they're not funded properly.
Understand what you're saying. You only have 2 months. This is the anniversary just passed. 2 months of some type of action. Whether it's in the park, in New York, Zuccotti. So you have to say in 2 months, the message is not necessarily clear, but the message has gotten out there.
And can you
Saquan,
compare
you
that
have to understand that in 2 months,
Tea Party?
the Tea Party
They had the whole right agenda. They had the money. They had the media.
Occupy Wall Street has money. It's not in.
They had billionaire money. Tea Party.
Billionaire money has billionaire money. You see all types of celebrities down there. You see all types of individuals. Let me tell you why you don't see it, Norm. Because at the end of the day, right? And listen, I'm a true blue Democrat. I want the message to be, or I want some sort of reform. I am saying something different but let me say this movement.
Right.
Media, and because we're doing this show, we're a part of media, right?
Exactly.
Media, they're not going to focus on the money being put into this movement because it contradicts the statement that they're supposedly trying to make. It's like you going out and saying, as you just
we
said
discussed that, and I know where you're going.
A law enforcement officer. You're a law enforcement officer, but you're going out saying, I'm all for legalizing marijuana. Even though I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but even if that's your personal view, you're not going to go out and openly say that. Even though, because of your position, and the two positions contradict each other.
Well, no. I'm not a policy maker in law enforcement.
Right.
And I do say you should legalize marijuana. Just
right.
Oh, you do? I just do that as an example. I'm just saying how the two don't relate.
But now, in this scenario, I understand it, and I see the producers telling us to wrap it up. We got to wait, hold on.
Okay.
I understand it. The difference is, and we made reference to this in previous shows, which was, okay, you can't say you want to take money out of politics and it starts accepting money for various elected candidates you want elected.
Right.
But here's the difference with this movement as opposed to the Tea Party. The Tea Party had a full-fledged backing of billionaires and Fox News. Wait, not just that, but they had 50 people, 50
ready to run
on them outside. And they had cameras, trucks, all type of stuff, and you would have thought it was a real movement. So the Tea Party was created by the rich. With that point, they're saying, cut it. So we're going to have to close out this segment, and we're going to be right back with our next segment. But it's getting hot in here.
There you go.
We'll be right back. Let's pay the bills.